In a quiet village deep in West Africa lived a radiant little girl named Zuri. With skin like warm earth and long, thick ebony braids that danced down her back, Zuri was admired by all who saw her. The village girls would whisper, "I wish I had hair like Zuri's," and the elders would smile, calling her the girl with a crown made of night. Her mother, Makena, adored her deeply. Every evening, under the soft glow of oil lamps, Makena would gently comb Zuri's hair while humming lullabies of their ancestors. With each stroke, she'd say, "Zuri, your beauty is a blessing, but never forget. Your heart is your true crown." But one evening, the music stopped. Makena had grown sick. Her eyes dimmed, and her breath came slower each day. Zuri sat beside her mother, clutching her hand tightly, whispering through tears, "Mama, are you going to get better?" Makena slowly lifted her hand to Zuri's cheek, her touch as soft as cotton, her voice barely a whisper. "Promise me, Zuri, that you'll always be kind. That is your greatest beauty." Then she closed her eyes and never opened them again. Zuri's world cracked in silence. She sat alone in the stillness, feeling the warmth of her mother's hand fade. Her heart broke, but she remembered those final words, as if they'd been sewn into her soul. Her father, Kwame, was a gentle man but too broken to raise a child alone. Within months, he remarried. The woman's name was Marva, and her arrival brought a different kind of silence to the house, one filled with cold glares and harsh commands. And with Marva came her own daughter, Kemi, 5 years younger than Zuri. Kemi didn't cook. She didn't clean. She sat cross-legged on velvet cushions, painting her nails and flipping through fashion magazines, while Zuri scrubbed the floors her footsteps dirtied. Zuri had lost her mother, but she had no idea. She was about to lose much more. Each morning, before the sun had even stretched its golden fingers across the village, Zuri was already awake, sweeping the clay floors and boiling water over the fire pit. While Kemi lounged indoors, laughing at television dramas and scrolling her phone, Zuri carried laundry to the river and cooked meals she wasn't allowed to taste. Marva, cold as stone, barked orders from the kitchen doorway. "You call that clean? Wash it again," she snapped. Zuri would nod quietly, her back aching, her feet raw, but her lips never opened in defiance. One evening, after hours of chores, Zuri approached Marva cautiously, her stomach growling, her hands trembling. "Auntie Marva," she said gently, "I've finished everything. May I eat something now?" Marva didn't even look up. "That food's for my daughter. You? Go find scraps outside, or eat your dreams if they taste sweet enough." Zuri swallowed her pain and stepped outside. Under the moonlight, she found a half-dry piece of bread left near the goats and sat down on a rock, eating slowly, quietly. Above her the stars shimmered, but her eyes brimmed with tears. She held her arms tightly across her chest and whispered, "Mama, why did you leave me here?" Inside the house, laughter echoed from Kemi's room, but in Zuri's silence was a promise she had never broken. That night, after the chores were done, she sat on her straw mat, looking into the cracked mirror beside her bed. She touched her long black braids gently, and for a moment she smiled despite everything. "This is yours, Mama," she whispered to her reflection. "They've taken everything, but not this. Not yet." What Zuri didn't know was that her light, though dimmed at home, still shined across the village. Young girls watched her walk by and whispered with admiration, "Zuri's so beautiful. Look at her hair. She's like a queen." Zuri smiled softly at their words, but inside, a quiet ache remained. No one at home spoke to her like that. No, one told her she mattered. Kemi saw how people admired Zuri and grew bitter with jealousy. One evening, she sat on her bed, frowning. "Why do they say she's prettier than me?" She snapped at Marva. "I'm the one with nice clothes and smooth skin." Marva leaned in and hugged her daughter tightly. "Don't listen to them, baby. You're the most beautiful. Zuri's just a shadow. She'll never shine brighter than you." That night, while Zuri lay quietly with a picture of her mother pressed to her chest, she whispered the same words she had since she was a child. Mama, I'll keep my heart kind, just like you said, no matter what. She closed her eyes, holding on to the one thing no one could take. But the road ahead was already twisting, and the storm had only begun. As the years passed, Zuri bloomed into a breathtaking young woman. By the time she turned 25, her beauty could no longer be hidden beneath rags or chores. Even without fine clothes or gold jewelry, people turned to look at her. It wasn't just her long black braids, it was something deeper, something glowing from within. But inside her own home, she still lived like a servant. Marva gave her nothing but cold commands. Kemi, now 20, had become even more arrogant. She never lifted a finger, never touched a broom, and never missed a chance to mock Zuri. One afternoon, while Zuri scrubbed the floor, Kemi leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You think your pretty face matters?" she scoffed. "You're still just a maid with shiny hair." Zuri looked up calmly but said nothing. She kept scrubbing, her silence stronger than any argument. Then one bright morning, everything changed. A voice echoed through the village square, loud, excited, urgent. "Attention, people. A royal celebration will be held at the palace. The prince himself will choose his bride from among the unmarried women of the land. All are invited." The villagers cheered, dancing in the streets. Girls rushed home to find their best dresses, and Zuri, she stood still for a moment, her heart pounding. For the first time in years, she felt hope. She rushed back home and found Marva in the kitchen. "Mama Marva," she said carefully, "may I go to the palace dance?" Marva's face twisted with rage. "What did you say?" I want to go," Zuri repeated. "I know I don't have much, but—" "A prince?" Marva laughed cruelly. "You think a prince would even look at you? You're nothing. A servant. A shadow. That's all you'll ever be." Kemi stepped forward, lips curled in a smile. "Look at me, Zuri. This is what a future queen looks. Like you. You're fit to wash dishes in the palace kitchen." But Zuri stood tall. Her voice didn't shake. "I still want to go. I have dreams too." Marva narrowed her eyes. "And what will you wear? That ragged cloth on your back? Maybe. You should ask your dead mother to send you a dress from the afterlife." Zuri felt the sting of those words, but she didn't break. "My mother always told me I was meant for more," she said softly, "and I believe her." That night, Marva sat alone in the dark, eyes gleaming with jealousy. "That girl dares to dream above my daughter?" she hissed. "Not on my watch." Zuri, unaware of the storm building, lay quietly on her mat, holding her mother's picture close. She whispered to the stars, "I'll make you proud, Mama. I won't give up." Above her, the night sky shimmered. But inside that house, Marva's wicked plan was already unfolding. The day before the royal celebration, Zuri woke up early with a quiet joy bubbling inside her. She moved through the house like a breeze, scrubbing, sweeping, and cooking with a lightness that had been missing for years. For once, her spirit felt alive. But Marva noticed. From the corner of the room, she watched Zuri carefully, her lips pressed into a thin, bitter line. "Look at her," she muttered, "acting like she belongs among royalty. That pride must be cut down." "Zuri," she suddenly barked, "these clothes aren't clean enough. Wash them again, and mop the entire floor. I want it shining." "Yes, Auntie," Zuri said softly. She didn't complain. She worked faster, her hands blistering and her back aching, but her mind was on the palace, on music, on magic. By sunset, every corner of the house gleamed. The dishes sparkled. The air smelled of lemon soap. Zuri stood up, her arms sore but her heart warm. "I did it," she whispered to herself. "Now nothing can stop me." But someone had already made sure something would. That night, while Zuri lay fast asleep, dreaming of candlelight and music, Marva crept through the shadows. In her hand, she held a pair of scissors, gleaming, sharp, silent. She stepped into Zuri's small room, the moonlight spilling across the floor. Zuri's breath was deep, peaceful. Her long black braids lay spread across the pillow like silk. Marva smiled cruelly. "Let's see if the prince still wants you without your little crown." She leaned in. Snip. The first braid fell. Snip. Snip. One after another. The thick, beautiful strands hit the floor. By the time Marva stepped back, Zuri's head was bare. The braids her mother once combed with love, gone. All of them. Cut, without mercy. Marva chuckled under her breath. "Now let's see how far your dreams go, bald little servant." She closed the door quietly and went to bed, her heart full of spite. But morning would bring more than tears. It would awaken something stronger than hair, something unbreakable. As the sun peeked over the horizon, its golden light slipped into Zuri's room. She stirred, stretched, and then froze. Something felt wrong. She reached up to touch her hair, but felt nothing. Her hand moved wildly over her scalp. Then her eyes landed on the floor. Braids. Her braids. Scattered in a lifeless heap. A scream ripped from her chest. "No. No, no, no." Zuri fell to her knees, sobbing, clutching the pieces of her hair as if they were broken pieces of her heart. Why would someone do this to me? The door creaked open. Marva stood there, arms crossed, smiling with cruel satisfaction. "Looking for something?" she said coldly. "You wanted to dance, right? Well, dance now. Let everyone see what you really are." Zuri looked up, eyes, red, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You cut it. You cut my mother's last gift to me." Marva scoffed. "It was just hair. Get over it." But Zuri remembered something. Her mother's voice, soft and powerful like the wind through trees. "Zuri, your beauty is your light, but your heart will always be your crown." Zuri wiped her tears. Her hands trembled. Her heart throbbed with pain. But she stood up. "You can take my hair," she said softly, "but you can't take my spirit." She walked to her closet, pulled out a beautiful scarf embroidered with tiny beads her mother had once sewn, and wrapped it gently around her bald head. Her face was still stained with tears. But her eyes? Her eyes held fire. She stepped outside, ignoring the whispers of neighbors, and ran through the village toward the home of her best friend. She knocked hard. "Amara, please open the door." Amara swung it open, shocked. "Zuri, what happened to you?" Zuri fell into her arms. "Auntie Marva, she cut it all off while I was sleeping." Amara held her tightly. "I'm so sorry. I don't understand how someone could be so cruel." "My hair is gone," Zuri whispered, "and now I have nothing to wear. I can't go to the palace." Amara pulled her gently inside and closed the door. "You have everything you need," she said, "because your heart is still strong." And just like that, the light inside Zuri flickered back to life. Inside Amara's cozy little home, the air smelled of warm spices and something safe. Zuri sat on the edge of the bed, still trembling, holding her shaved head in her hands. "Can't face them, Amara. Not like this," she whispered. Amara knelt beside her, holding her hand. "Your hair was beautiful, Zuri, but your heart? That's something no scissors can cut." Zuri gave a faint smile, her lips barely curling. "But the whole village will laugh. The prince, he'll turn away the moment he sees me." "No," Amara said firmly, walking to the wooden chest at the foot of her bed. "You will still go to that palace, and you'll go as the strongest woman there." She opened the chest and pulled out a stunning royal blue dress, sleek, handmade, with delicate golden stitching along the waist. Zuri gasped. "Is that—" "I made it for you," Amara smiled, eyes misty. "For this day, because I always knew you were meant for more." Tears returned to Zuri's eyes, but this time they didn't fall from pain. "Thank you," she whispered. Amara reached again into the chest and retrieved a scarf, deep black, edged with glimmering stones that shimmered like stars in the night sky. "Wrap your head with this," she said, draping it gently into Zuri's hands. "Let it show the world your strength." Zuri stood and slowly changed into the dress. The fabric fit her like it had always been waiting for her. She tied the scarf over her bald head, its stones catching the light. When she turned to the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She didn't see a servant anymore, she saw a queen. Amara took her hand, eyes shining. "Let's go, sister." Together they walked to the palace. The night was alive, drums beating, torches flickering, music spilling out into the stars. Girls from every corner of the kingdom stood dressed in their finest clothes, laughing, adjusting their jewelry, hoping to be chosen. Zuri walked past them, quiet, calm, head held high. And as she entered the glowing palace hall, something happened. The room fell silent. Everyone turned to look at the girl in the royal blue dress, wrapped in a jeweled black scarf with eyes full of grace and a walk that carried years of pain and power. "Who is she?" a voice whispered. "She's beautiful," someone murmured. And across the room a pair of warm, watchful eyes narrowed on her. Prince Jabari. Tall, elegant, with a quiet strength in his presence, he stepped forward slowly, never taking his eyes off her. Zuri kept walking, unaware that she had already changed the room. Her crown wasn't gold, it was courage, and everyone saw it. The palace sparkled with lanterns, gold drapes, and polished marble that caught every flicker of light. The scent of roasted spices and garden flowers floated through the air as dancers twirled to the beat of traditional drums. It was a night of celebration, of royalty, of dreams. And yet, as Prince Jabari stood near the grand staircase, his eyes were locked on one figure only, Zuri. She walked slowly, her blue dress flowing behind her like a whisper of royalty, her jeweled black scarf glinting like the night sky. Her presence quieted the room, not by command, but by grace. Jabari made his way through the crowd, weaving past women dressed in silks and gold, his gaze unwavering. When he finally reached her, he stopped, offering his hand with gentle confidence. "Would you dance with me?" he asked, his voice warm and deep. Zuri hesitated for only a second. Her eyes searched his, unsure if this moment was real. Then softly, "Yes, I'd be honored." The music shifted to something slower, softer, and they began to dance. Under the soft lanterns and curious eyes, Zuri and Jabari moved like they had done it 1,000 times. She felt the warmth of his palm against hers, the strength of his presence, the calm in his eyes. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. "Zuri," she replied, voice like honey. "Zuri," he repeated with a smile. "Your courage shines brighter than any crown I've ever seen." Zuri's heart thudded. She looked down shy, but she stood straighter. Across the room, near the banquet table, Marva's mouth twisted into a scowl. Kemi gritted her teeth. They had come dressed in silk, prepared to win the prince's attention. Instead, the entire hall was watching the bald-headed girl in the blue dress. Marva couldn't take it anymore. "She's bald," she suddenly yelled, voice sharp and bitter. "She's nothing but a servant. You should choose my daughter, Prince Jabari." Kemi marched beside her, face flushed red. "Yes, Your Highness. I'm the one fit for a crown, not that ugly girl, with no hair." The room froze. Eyes turned toward Zuri. For a split second, her heart sank. The pain returned. The old shame. But then, Prince Jabari gently took her hand and raised it for all to see. "I choose Zuri," he said clearly, his voice unwavering, "not for her hair, not for her dress. I choose her because she has the heart of a queen." The room erupted in cheers. Gasps and claps echoed across the palace. Marva's face turned pale. Kemi let out a cry of disbelief. Zuri stared at Jabari, tears forming, but this time they came from joy. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will dance." Yes, I will believe. And as they twirled beneath the palace lights, everyone finally saw what Zuri's mother always knew. Her heart was her crown. Prince Jabari held Zuri's hand firmly, standing tall before the crowd. The glow of the lanterns shimmered in his eyes, but his voice rang loud and clear through the palace. I choose Zuri, he declared again, turning to face the crowd, because she showed more courage, grace, and strength than anyone here tonight. She may not wear a crown of gold, but her heart is already royal. The room stood silent for a heartbeat, then exploded with applause. Guests clapped and cheered, many with tears in their eyes. Even the musicians paused, their hands hovering over their drums before breaking into a powerful rhythm of joy. Marva stumbled backward, her face twisted with rage and disbelief. Her plan had failed. Her cruelty had been exposed, and now the very thing she tried to destroy had been lifted high. Kemi's lips trembled. "This is not fair," she shouted, her voice cracking as tears streamed down her face. "She's bald." "She's not even beautiful." But no one listened. Their eyes were on Zuri, who stood glowing beside the prince, scarf shining, eyes lifted, heart strong. "I don't need hair to be worthy," Zuri said calmly, "because my mother taught me that beauty fades, but kindness and courage remain." Jabari turned to her with a smile. "Zuri, will you marry me?" he asked, kneeling slowly before her, a small golden ring glinting in his hand. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Zuri's breath caught in her chest. For a moment she saw her mother's face, smiling, proud, whispering to her from memory. She nodded, tears of happiness finally falling. "Yes, Jabari. Yes, I'll marry you." Amara, watching from the crowd, covered her mouth with joy. Her eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "She did it." The palace erupted in celebration. The drums returned, louder than ever, and people danced, shouted, embraced. The bald girl who once cried under the stars now stood beside a prince, chosen not for her beauty, but for her unbreakable spirit. That night, the village changed. That night, Zuri became a symbol, and the girl who had nothing left became everything. Days passed, and the entire village buzzed with joy. Stories of Zuri and the royal ball spread through every hut and hill. Children reenacted the moment Prince Jabari raised Zuri's hand. Mothers held their daughters close and whispered, "You are enough, just as you are." The royal wedding was set. On the big day, Zuri stood at the palace balcony, dressed in a flowing white and gold gown, a handcrafted scarf wrapped gracefully around her head. It sparkled with even more beauty than the first night. Now it shimmered with meaning. Prince Jabari stood beside her in his royal robe, his eyes never leaving her face. The village gathered outside the palace gates, waiting in anticipation. Then Jabari stepped forward, lifting a small golden crown. The crowd hushed. "Today," he announced, "Zuri becomes your queen." As the crown touched her head, a cheer exploded from the crowd. Hands clapped, feet danced, and drums roared. But Zuri? She stood quietly, her heart full. She took a deep breath and stepped forward to speak. "My friends," Zuri said warmly, "I stand before you not because of my looks, not because of my hair. In fact, my hair was taken, but my heart stayed, strong." The crowd leaned in, silent and listening. "My mother once told me, 'Beauty is your light, but your heart is your crown.' I never understood those words, until I lost everything, and still stood. Tears sparkled in her eyes, but she smiled through them. True beauty can be stolen, but courage cannot. Kindness cannot. Your heart, no one can take that from you." Women in the crowd began nodding, hugging their daughters. Girls reached up to touch their own scarves or short hair, eyes filled with pride. "I want every girl to remember this," Zuri continued. "You are enough. Whether you wear braids, twists, curls, or no hair at all, you are strong. You are worthy." The people erupted in applause. Even the palace guards wiped their eyes. Amara stood among the villagers, grinning wide with tears streaming freely. Zuri gently touched the scarf on her head. This scarf once covered what was lost. Now it shows what was found. Strength. From today, let it be a symbol. If you feel different, if you've ever been told you're not beautiful, wear it with pride, because your heart is your crown. From that day forward, Zuri's scarf became a movement. Girls from every village tied scarves around their heads, not in shame, but in power. Girls with scars, girls recovering from illness, girls who once hid in shadows, stood tall with heads wrapped like queens. They weren't hiding, they were declaring. Zuri stood on the palace steps, gazing over the joyful sea of faces below. The golden crown rested gently atop her jeweled scarf, but she didn't need it to feel royal. Her spirit wore something greater: dignity, love, and the pride of a nation. The people chanted her name. Queen Zuri. Queen Zuri. She smiled through tears, her voice steady as she spoke once more. Let no girl be told she is not enough. Let no heart be broken by cruel words. Let this kingdom be a place where all women walk tall, not because of what's on their head, but because of what's in their heart. From a shadowed corner beyond the palace steps, Marva watched quietly, her once sharp eyes now dull with regret. She had tried to destroy Zuri. Instead, she had made her rise. Beside her, Kemi stood silently, her pride shattered. For the first time in her life, she wasn't talking. She was listening. And as she looked at Zuri, the woman her mother tried to break, she saw something she had never understood before. True royalty wasn't inherited. It was earned. Kemi lowered her head, her eyes filled with the beginning of something unfamiliar. Humility. Zuri turned toward the prince, who now held her hand not as a savior, but as a partner. Jabari smiled, proud not just of his bride, but of the queen she had become. You've changed all of us, he said softly. Not with power, but with your heart. Zuri whispered back, I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace, and love, and the freedom to be myself. He kissed her hand gently. That evening, girls from every village came forward, each tied scarves over their heads, some plain, some bright, some beaded, some bare. They wore them not to hide, but to shine. In every market, school, and home, Zuri's scarf became more than fabric. It became a symbol of survival, of courage, of truth. And when mothers told their daughters bedtime stories, they no longer spoke only of kings and warriors. They told the story of a bald-headed girl who lost everything and became queen because she never let anyone steal her crown.